Ending the Pursuit of Happiness by Mary Magid, the chapter on relationships. The last section, A Mother's Kiss. Picture a little girl playing in the park, perhaps running and laughing, playing tag with her friends. Suddenly she slips, falls, scrapes her knee. She starts to cry and runs back to the edge of the park where her mother has been watching. The mother scoops her up in her arms and bends down to kiss her knee, saying, "I'll kiss it and make it better." This encapsulates something about the essence of practice, though perhaps not in the way. Practice meaning sitting and meditating, as in Zen meditation. Though perhaps not in the way that one might immediately think. We don't think of sophisticated, rigorous disciplines like psychoanalysis or Zen being like a mother's kiss, but let's look deeper into what's happening here. First, consider all the ways the little girl's experience could go wrong. Perhaps she is hurt, and when she looks around her for her mother, she can't find her, and she becomes frightened and cries, unable to console herself. Or perhaps the other children make fun of her and make her feel stupid or clumsy for having fallen. Or perhaps her mother is feeling tired and overwhelmed herself, and when she sees what's happened, she gets exasperated and said, "Now look what you've done." We can all make up many more examples, I'm sure, but what they have in common is that the child will come to have certain beliefs about pain and difficulty. Maybe it's my fault that I got hurt. Is my pain a big deal or nothing at all? Am I being a crybaby? Can I expect help or sympathy, or is the world cruel and uncaring? Each different version of the story gives rise to its own set of beliefs and expectations. But what about the first version, when the mother is there and is able to comfort her child and kiss her and make it better? What is really happening? Well, the most important thing to see is that she is, of course, not really making the pain go away with her kiss. What is happening is that she's providing a soothing, containing space in which the little girl can have her experience of pain. The mother conveys both that she knows how much it hurts and reassures the child that the child is going to be okay. The pain becomes normalized. It is nothing terrible or catastrophic, but something that she will feel for a while and that will gradually fade away. And then she will go back to playing with her friends. Both therapy and Zen provide something like this container for our experience, one in which we can not only quietly have the emotional experience, but one in which we can watch all the old expectations and fears and beliefs about pain come to the surface. However, one of the other consequences of not having the reliable experience of an appropriately soothing parent in the first place is that we can form magical ideas about what is supposed to make it better. We create fantasies in which someone or something will once and for all make the pain disappear, and we can spend years and years in therapy or in the Zendo waiting for that magic to happen, perhaps ending up bitter and disappointed when the magic doesn't appear. And some people would say, "You fools, it's Jesus. Go there and you'll be cured and you will find your way." And I, for one, respect that. But nothing ever makes the pain in our lives disappear. Oh, we can create moments of relief or pleasure, but when we think that's the way it's supposed to feel all the time, we fall into one form or another of addiction, desperately using drugs or religion or love as an anodyne. What practice can offer is a container for our pain, one in which the moment-to-moment kiss of attention allows us to experience for just what it is, simply as one part of our ever-changing life. So one thing that occurs to me just here now is that for some people, and Christians do meditate, and practice can benefit and join in Zen practice. Yes, their thought is that the acceptance, the consciousness, the container within which we begin to know ourselves is one extended by Jesus, one he knew about, one he taught about, one that, you can attribute there. And it works. What practice can offer is a container for our pain, one in which the moment-to-moment kiss of attention allows us to experience it for what it is, simply as one part of our ever-changing life. Just as that little girl needs a trustworthy, secure attachment to her mother in order to develop her own capacity to deal with pain. So as students, we need to have a secure, trustworthy relationship with our teacher to learn to deal with the larger pain in our lives. We might say it is a developmental necessity of our spiritual practice, just as it is a developmental necessity for the little girl if she is to grow up normally. Although through Buddhist history monks have renounced the security of their homes and family to follow the way, in doing so they have chosen a form of life that provides them with a clear direction, often a lifelong supporting community of fellow practitioners, and the guidance of a teacher whom they trust and respect. When we read stories of the lives of old Chinese Zen masters, we read of their intense devotion and commitment to their teachers, with some staying with the teacher for decades, often until the teacher's death, before setting out to teach independently. In the intimacy of dokusan, which is a Buddhist word for when you sit in front of a teacher, a student's deepest core beliefs may be shaken to their foundation. But I think it's crucial to remember that this is taking place with the secure container of the student-teacher relationship and a deep trust in the rightness of a life following the Dharma. Dharma is the set of ethical practices and teachings around what consciousness is and what the pitfalls of selfhood are. Dharma. This is why the scandals of 20th century American Zen have been so traumatic. Sexual scandals, teachers and students. Not only the teachers themselves, but often the whole community and lifestyle they established were called into question by their misconduct. American Zen communities are all, historically speaking, brand new experiments. Each reflected the particular teaching style of its founder, incorporating to very different degrees aspects of traditional Asian monasticism. But it doesn't take a scandal to disrupt a community of practice. The vision of the teacher can change over time, or as the students and community get older, what once felt like an exciting experiment may grow stale. One of my teachers, my old teachers, Barry's old teachers, Bernie Glassman, has changed his teaching style many times over the years. He founded a Zen community open to both residents and non-residents who continued to work and live outside it. Later, he shifted his emphasis to work practice and made establishing and running a bakery the focus of his teaching. At another time, he emphasized working with the homeless, training them in the bakery and taking students on street retreats where they lived like the homeless. Larry Shainberg's memoir, Ambivalent Zen, gives a portrait of this Sangha that alternates between inspiring, funny, and sad. Glassman has gone on to establish the Peacemaker Order and lead retreats at Auschwitz. Glassman is now dead. Anyway, not because he led retreats to Auschwitz, because he died, got old, died. And in yet another permutation of practice, he disrobed as a monastic and trained as a clown. All of these changes in teaching style could be said to represent his skillful means, taking one different form after another, all unselfishly manifesting his Dharma, his set of ethics. Yet no matter how authentic an expression of Bernie's own realization these different forms may have been, the question remains for any individual student as to whether or not this form provides the appropriate teaching for oneself. Constant change may free up one student, but unnecessarily and unproductively disrupt the life of another. Not everything a teacher does turns out to be equally skillful, and a student's reluctance to undertake or put up with the teacher's latest project is not automatically a sign of their recalcitrant, egoistic attachments, but maybe just good for them. Later in her life, Joko decided that two of her Dharma heirs had seriously deviated from the way of practice that she had developed and transmitted to them. Although they were in regular contact over the course of decades of practice, she one day concluded that their paths were progressively diverging and she could no longer accept that they were legitimate teachers. Not only does it seem, do students require a minimum of constancy from their teachers, but teachers may feel the same need regarding their students, who, if they deviate too much from the teacher's way, run the risk of no longer being acknowledged with their lineage. What kind of constancy can we expect from a teacher? Traditionally, we would say that we should be able to trust that the teacher can act consistently, unselfishly, or compassionately. What form that takes, however, is an entirely separate question. Compassion can be anything at all that helps a student awaken. One great Chinese master is said to have slammed the door and broken a student's leg, and this action precipitated a great awakening in the student, who would go on to become a great teacher himself. Some teachers believe that constantly undermining students' expectations is the very heart of their teaching. Students shouldn't come to Zen centers looking for security. A teacher's compassion can thus take many constantly changing forms. We need to acknowledge both the authenticity of diverse teaching styles and just how inappropriate, indeed how harmful, the wrong approach at the wrong time with the wrong student can be. We would like to imagine that an enlightened master is perfectly attuned to each student's individual needs and varies his teaching style accordingly, but some perfectly authentic teachers are more like one-trick ponies. In the classic koan stories, we read of teachers. Koans are small stories asking questions like the sound of one hand clapping, the koan that most people have heard of, things to ponder. In the classic koan stories, we read of teachers who, regardless of what any student asked, simply raised one finger or turned away and faced the wall. 1,000 years later, we read of the one student who, when treated that way, got it. But what happened to all the others? Trust is the absolute basis of the student-teacher relationship, but trust can't forever be blind, and a student must balance trust with Buddha's admonition, be your own lamp. There's a time to stick it out and practice through difficulty, including what feels like irreconcilable conflicts with a teacher, but there's also a time to cut and run, to admit this approach, this teacher is just not a good fit, and maybe even a toxic one, and move on. Talking to other students and teachers may help you sort out which position you're in, but no one can decide for you. And now in this last section, I'm going to pull up the music, and Facebook, I have permission to use this music. Derek Gripper. You can get Barry Magid's books. I think they're really helpful. Thank you to my Sangha member, Parnell Wickham, who has us reading this chapter blow by blow. You can go to ordinarymind.com and sit with the group if you want. And find your way. Keep your head.